Hello, my name is Tom Gaylor. I'm the BOPS product lead, and I'm here today to share a demo of processing a householder application in BOPS, which is the back office planning system. It's been jointly built by local authorities working with Unboxed as a delivery partner on this project. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the landing page. Once an officer logs into BOPS, we can see there's an overview of different applications, those assigned to you, unassigned, cases closed, updated, etc. Today, we are going to have a look at processing a householder application. So here's an application that's been received recently. It's for a roof extension on the rear of the property. This is assigned to me. It's a full householder application. We can see it's not valid yet, etc. BOPS sorts the application processing into four main sections, which you can see here. Validation, consultation, assessment, and review, and you work through those as an officer as you process it. So let's jump into the validation. We can see that we've got our tasks for validation available on the left-hand side here. So reviewing documents, checking red lines, checking fees, checking a few other things, and then sending our validation decision. We start with the first task straight away. So for this task, we're reviewing the documents. So we can see we received some documents here. We can go in, have a look at those documents. Those can be opened up and viewed in a new window. We can change the tags, change the drawing number, and we can then check whether that's valid, whether the document should be made public or not. In this case, we can make this document valid. Once that's valid, we can see the status has become checked. If, for example, we're looking at a plan and we see that there is an issue with it, for example, incorrect detailing or no there haven't been appropriate labeling of it, we can say that this document is invalid and we can list the issues. As I'm doing now. This then marks that document as invalid and we can continue with the rest of our checks. If when we're reviewing this, we realize not only is there maybe an invalid document, but there are a document that's missing, something that needs to be submitted that hasn't yet, we can request a missing document. So we could say, in this case, we're going to ask for the existing floor plans as per local safe request. And that has now been added as a request here, and we can mark that as complete. So once the officer's happy that they've checked it, they can mark it off, and then the status is tracked on the left-hand side, as we can see. If we need to do redaction, then we can upload those redacted documents here, so we can select redactions if and where we need to do it. One thing to note is that because BOPS receives the application form as data rather than a document, there is no manual redaction or no redaction that needs to take place to the application form because it's received as data. The red line can also be checked. This can be validated or invalidated. If it's invalidated, we can just have a look at that process. The officer is able to submit a suggested new red line. So for example, if this works, maybe involved a dropped curb, then that suggestion is made to the applicant and can be accepted or rejected, and then if so, will just be automatically updated. There's the opportunity to review constraints. Constraints are automatically queried based on the red line boundary submission, and then if the red line boundary changes at all, we rerun that check. But there is a manual ability to add any constraints if needed to, like this, and then that adds that to the application. Description can be checked and changed. So this question asks whether it matches development and use in the plans. If we need to amend it at all, then we can remove aspects of it, and then we can state whether the applicant needs to agree to that because it's a fundamental change, or if it's just a small formatting change or a typo can be fixed just directly by the officer, but they have the discretion to do that. So in this case, we'll send that off to the applicant for their approval. So let's have a look at fee checking. Similarly, if this can be validated or invalidated, and the request will be sent, and then we'll add the reporting details for this application. There are further checks for SIL, environmental impact statements, ownership certificates that I'm not going to look at. And then we can have a look. So we've description changes, because they aren't related to an issue that can be made invalid or valid for an application. Those are sent directly to the applicant. So if we quickly move over to the applicant's email inbox, we can see, just let it load up, that we've already got a request come in to say that a description change has been suggested. And so by following the link in that email, the applicants are taken to a page where they are able to see any requests for changes. So in this case, we can review the description change. We can see what the previous description was, what the new description is, and we can say, yes, we agree with these, and that is then complete. So if we return back to the journey, for the officer side, we can see that's now been responded, the change description. These other ones have not yet been sent, which is why they weren't ready to view. The final step of the validation for the officer is to then actually mark it as invalid. So once they're happy, they've checked everything they need to, they can mark it as valid or invalid. This is automated. So if there are no requests, it will be, you can make it valid. And if there are requests, then you can make it invalid, just to prevent any issues that have been marked, ending up on a valid case. So we can mark this as invalid. We can see this application status has changed to invalid. And then if we return to the mailbox, which I will just load up, we can see that we've got, we'll just wait for the emails to come through. And then if we follow that through to the portal, and we'll just give this a quick refresh, we can see that we've got the requested items have come through on the applicant side. So we're going to upload some replacement documents. So we'll put this document in so they can pick a file. They've got the details of what they need, and that goes straight into the back office system. And if it's a replacement document, it will be tagged with all the details of the one it's replacing. Obviously, if it's a new document, it will need to be reviewed as part of the processing. So we've added those documents, and then we're just checking the red line. So we can see the original red line, we can see the reason why the change is requested, and we can see the proposed one, and the applicant can agree or disagree with that. If they agree, then that will automatically update it. So if we return to the application now, we can see that we've got 4 new responses that have been highlighted here. And then if we go into validation, we're able to see updates. So for example, we've got the red line boundary. We can say that's been approved, so that's great. And then if we come in and look at this, we can see that we've got some updated drawings and a new drawing here that we can then review and complete. So once they're happy that the validation is complete, then we can say that this application is ready to be made valid, and we'll make sure it's been published on the public portal. So this application is now in assessment. So we can see that the consultation and assessment phases have been opened up, ready to be used. Consultations, the constraints can trigger automatically adding officers. So you can see in this case, the site special scientific interest has pulled up the biodiversity officer as a necessary consultee. Those can be set up locally for each local authority. And in this case, you can also add additional consultees as you need to that. So we can see that we've got 2 consultees here. Once we're happy that we've got all the right consultees added, we can then send the emails. We can select to send, select the type. There's a template which can be edited if needed, and a response period. Once we're happy, we can send that off, and we can see that the status is sending, and these 2 consultees are receiving it. The consultees will receive a link to a portal where they can upload their response, which will come straight into the back office system. If they send a response manually, or if you have any need to upload a response that's come in separately, you can do that via the link here, and there's a form to do it. For neighbours, these can be selected on a map. So we can see the site in the red line outlined here, and then we draw around the area that we want to do. So if it's just adjoining neighbours, or it could be adjoining and opposite, that will then trigger those neighbours to be added to the list below here. We can add those addresses. And we see that we've got those already selected, and we can mark as complete. Those neighbours then will be added here, and letters can be sent out to them. Due to this being a test situation, we've not set up the letter sending so that it won't go, because there's cost associated, but this is all it's all managed through Notify, and when you set up BOPS, we'll set you up with the correct credentials to make this work. But you can choose the type of letter. Again, you can see the template that's going to go out and the response period. You can send the letters, and then neighbour responses that come in will come into here, and those can also be added manually, or they can be sent in via the API link, which works with Digital Planning Register, but can work with other services as well. For site notices, these can be created as such. Quantity can be specified. Any details about where the site notices are to be displayed can be added, and then there are options to either print it, send it to an email, send it via email to an agent or applicant, or send it to an internal team to put up. In this case, we're just going to do the print. So we're going to put in today's date, and we're going to send the site notice. We can then download that site notice. So I'll just open that up and show you what that looks like. You can see we've got details of this. We've got the red line boundary. We've got a link to have our say, QR codes that leads to the same place, key details, and then some details about how to contact the council if needed. Once that's been put up, we can confirm the display by uploading details of it, and then further site notices can be added if needed. Press notices follow a similar process. They can be created. The reason for the press notice is added, and that will generate this. Generates an email that can be set up in the back end that goes to the press notice team, and then evidence of that press notice being sent out can be uploaded here as well. So that's the consultation activities underway. We can now switch our attention to assessment. Assessment begins with some initial checks. These cover some of the things that were, so ownership certificate was also reviewed at validation stage. And once the officer's happy with that, they continue. And then consultees can just be checked, as well as site history. If you've fully adopted BOPS, you'll have a full link of automated site history. If you're using BOPS just in a trial version, you won't have your existing planning history added in. So this can be added manually via the form here to help allow you to process applications during the check-in phase. So we'll just say that these are all complete. The publicity steps can also be reviewed. And then we get on to the main sort of assessment summaries. The key thing to know about BOPS is that rather than officers writing reports in Word documents, which are separate to the application, the officers complete sections which are populate the report, so you can see a track record of what's been added to the report via the task list on the left-hand side and the content here. So we're going to just add in some detail. We're going to complete that. So that's been complete, and we can work our way through the various other sections. So we're going to add a description of site. Other considerations can be added. We can also put in a summary of consultation. So these can be completed as we go through. We've obviously got similar process for neighbour responses as well. And then any details of site visits can be added. So we can complete that because we haven't done a site visit for this application. One of the key things is the way that considerations are added. So these allow the build-up of structured information about what's been assessed for each application. They're organised by policy areas, so these can be set up by local authorities in their admin areas, and these allow essentially to create the sort of chapter or paragraph headings that you would expect to see in your reports. So in this case, we might say we're going to have a design and conservation area. Design and conservation chapter. We're going to pull in the relevant policies. So that would be the ones around conservation area and design of places. We can make reference to any policy guidance, whether that's like London Plan, in this case, or MPPF. We can add our assessment. So we can say this proposal is broadly in line with its requirements. And we can add a conclusion. That will then be saved, and we can go and add more considerations, and those can be rearranged as well. So let's just quickly add something on affordable housing. Let's say this policy reference is related. Not enough provided. Apply. We can add that consideration. So you can see how it gets built up. We can also add multiple, so we can use this as well to have a, we can also have this, use this section to describe our sort of overall conclusion. So we can say planning balance and conclusion. We can say overall this development accords with the majority policy group. So you can create that structure that you might be familiar with various considerations, and then an overall planning balance and conclusion section as well. So once you're happy, that can be completed. And then there are just a few sections to complete. So reviewing documentation, we need to make sure that we're listing the relevant drawings on the decision notice. Make sure that whatever things are publicly available, if they should be made publicly available, and if document references for anything that's not there. We can also add conditions. So we've got some standard conditions here, but further conditions can be added, and these can be set up so you can have some conditions can be added into the back end that auto populate as well. So if there are standard conditions you want to use, that will help drive consistency. In this case, we're going to say that's okay. You can have pre-commencement conditions, which we're going to skip, and informatives as well. Once you're happy that you've done that, then you can review your assessment and make your draft recommendations. So you can see we've got some of the sort of, this is essentially the report with all the details of various actions, our assessments, etc., the documents to include in the decision notice, and then we get to the point where we're making our draft recommendation. Does it need to be made by committee, and what's our recommendation? So we can put in our reason for the decision and add any supporting information if we need to for the reviewer. We can also add heads of terms if that's necessary. And once we're happy, we review the draft decision notice. So this decision notice is created from all the information that we've entered in, pulls in the map, the conditions, the document references, proactive engagement status, all our appeal stuff. So we can review, we're happy with all of this, and then we can send that off to the reviewer. So we can now see this is a waiting determination, and a reviewer can be assigned to pick it up. So we'll quickly look at that final step of the process, review and sign off. We can see we've got the details of the maps and the neighbours that have been identified, showing together there. We've also got key details, applications, the constraints, the neighbours, the consultees, the site history, and the documents all shown there. Then the reviewer is able to check through each of the sections to confirm that they're happy with it, or return it if they need to for the officer. If they return it, then they can carry on with, then they'll send the message back to the officer, who can review it and make further adjustments. If there are any small details, they can be edited like so. And that means that, you know, it doesn't need to be sent back to the officer to make a change. So we can say that that's been completed. We can look at the site description and say, yeah, that's okay. We'll save that section. Consultation, yeah, we're happy with that. Summary of neighbour responses. And then we can review the policy and guidance, again, agreeing that, and review our conditions as well. So if there are any needs to change those, that can happen. Once each of the sections has been completed, everything's been reviewed, they can sign off the recommendation. They review the documents. They can see the when the recommendation was doing. We can see we've got a warning because the consultation is still ongoing, but it can be overridden if needed. So we can say, yes, we're happy to publish this decision in this case. And then we can review and publish that decision. So again, the reviewer gets to check the decision notice, make sure they're happy with everything that's included on there. Once they've read through all of that, ensure that they've got the determination date there, which will pick up today's date. And we can see that because we hadn't yet confirmed the press notice, we're prompted to go and do this. So we can say that this happened today. We'll upload some evidence of that, and we'll confirm the publication. So you can see how the prevents sort of publishing that determination if there are any sort of outstanding issues that might need resolving before that goes. Once it's determined, we can see that the decision notice is sent to the applicant and the agent if there is one, and we can view all the details. And if we go back into published determination, we are able to see that decision notice if we need to. And we've got the option to download it as a PDF. So if you're interested in trying out BOPS, please do get in touch with us. We're very keen to show you a demo, show you any further demos, and talk more about how it might help you with your planning application process. Thank you.